AddictedToRadio.com.
Welcome to LP1. This is Seminar 1, and we're going to be discussing linking HR strategies with business strategies. There are 3 parts to this seminar, so make sure that you view all 3. Try to break them down to make them a little easier on everyone for you to listen to and for me to record. All right, in order to really understand where we're coming from, we need to look a little bit at HR in the past, present, and future. So let's look at the HR past. Until the last probably 10 to 15 years, HR really was more considered paper pushers than anything else. We really were relegated to, I don't want to say secretarial duties, but filling in the blanks on health forms and placing ads in the newspaper for hiring and just really relegated to very much administrative tasks. We planned picnics and we managed payroll and things of that nature. But we really didn't have a seat at the table, so to speak, as far as discussing the strategy of the overall organization. However, in the last 10 to 15 years, we've really come a long way in the HR industry. Business professionals are now beginning to see, organizational leaders are now beginning to see that HR professionals have a lot of skills that they can offer an organization, and we really can support the overall strategies of the organization in a wide variety of ways. And the future of HR is bright. The workforce is changing very rapidly, and that means that they're going to need people to change with it. That people who can change with it, and people who can strategize and look at big picture situations and drill down into specific activities that are needed. All right, let's talk about how the workforce is changing. We know that baby boomers are beginning to exit the workforce, but our workforce overall is aging. People are just staying in the job market longer than they have previously in previous generations. Part of this is because the baby boomers are in good health overall, and they don't see any reason to leave their job just because they hit the magic number of 65. They are vibrant, they are healthy, they have no desire to stop working, and so they're staying in the job market longer than anyone anticipated. Another part of that reason is because of the effect of the recession on their retirement plans. A lot of people lost a lot of money during the recession, so maybe they really don't have the money to retire the way they thought they would at the age they thought they would. A lot of baby boomers are beginning to use the technology we have available, and we'll talk about that more in a minute, in order to stay at work, but in a different capacity maybe than they did. Maybe they're really not wanting full-time work anymore, so they're going to part-time labor. They're using job sharing. They're using working from home situations. So it's really a change in the workforce, but as a general rule, our workforce is aging. There's a lot of diversity in the workforce, and that is one aspect that is going to continue to grow as we move forward into the future. Every year we become a more diverse workforce, and there are various challenges and benefits that go with that, and we'll discuss some of those a little later in the presentation. Technology has changed the world, and I don't think anyone could argue that it hasn't. We do business differently now than we did 20 years ago. We go to college differently now than we did 20 years ago. And it's not ever going to go back to the way it was. So the way technology has impacted the business environment is fundamental to understanding how businesses are strategizing in light of technology. Another aspect of the changing workforce is just the globalization of the world. The world is very small now compared to what it used to be. We can order products from anywhere around the world. Even as a small business, you can have suppliers from India or Mexico or China or wherever, and there's just no limit to doing business in your own hometown. And because of this global market that we're living in, even small businesses have to think in global terms now in order to remain competitive. Oh, what's the wrong way? Excuse me. All right, sustainability. Businesses are looking for ways to be sustainable. And sustainable has several definitions. One of the definitions is just to keep going. Businesses want to embrace business practices that will allow them to continue, and that's one of the definitions. Another definition is to consider the environmental impact of a business on the world. Businesses are looking to give back. Some examples would be the way the Coca-Cola Corporation invests in wetland projects to put more water back into the environment since they take so much out. Another example would be the way that Tom Shoes gives a pair of shoes to someone in a third world country every time we in America buy a pair of shoes. These are sustainable business practices, and they're very popular, and people want to know that they're giving back to society. They're not just taking from society. And businesses are always looking for ways to create a more sustainable model. Ethics is another big deal. Companies do not want to be the next Enron. They want to stay out of trouble. And so the need for training and maintaining high ethical principles is just continuing to grow, and it's going to expand. Through the use of more technology, we have more concerns about identity theft and hacking into people's personal information. And so it's an ethical business practice for companies to be vigilant about maintaining privacy and safety of customer interaction. All right, the Society for Human Resource Management is the top professional organization for human resource managers. If you are not already a member of SHRM, I encourage you to go to shrm.org, shrm.org, and find out what you need to do to become a member. There is a membership level for students that's not expensive, and the SHRM website is just a wonderful tool. There's all kinds of information about HR on there, and that's free to anyone. And then once you join, you have access to even more information, and it's just a tremendous tool. So I would encourage you to check into that. Every year, SHRM puts together a panel of subject matter experts, and they look at HR and they look at the world, and they kind of say, these are the things that we need to pay attention to. These are our top trends, and that's what it's called here. And so for 2014, they identified several. The economy is always going to be probably on that list, especially in light of the fact that we're still coming back from a major recession. Competition for skilled workers is of high importance for employers right now. We are starting to see shortages in fields like information technology. There was a big bubble in the 80s and early 90s when IT really took off, and then the bottom kind of dropped out of it, and so college students stopped majoring in IT type degree plans. And so now most of the IT workers are getting older, and we're not seeing younger people come into IT, so that's a growing field. We're also seeing a shortage of workers who can do welding and automotive repair and air conditioning repair, things of that nature. We aren't pushing kids in high school to go to technical schools anymore. We're pushing them into college, which can be good, but it can also be negative because we need plumbers and electricians and automotive repair technicians. And I live in Texas in the summer, and I guarantee you if my air conditioning goes out, I want someone here qualified to fix it today. So these things are necessary, and we're beginning to see a shortage of these workers that leads to high competition. The influence of communication technology like social media, this has forever changed our world, and we have to embrace it. Some businesses want to pretend that it doesn't exist, but those businesses are falling behind, and we need to really embrace social media. We talked about demographic changes. Work and life balance strategies. More and more companies are beginning to see that they have a lot more effective employees if the employees are able to really balance their work with their family life. And so they're making accommodations for families to make it easier for that to happen. Metrics. HR metrics are important. They tell us what we're doing well and what we're not doing well, where we can improve. Global market uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen from day to day anywhere around the world. And simple things like the problems going on in the Middle East or in the Ukraine right now, those can affect global markets. And so businesses need to be aware of those and how they can affect us. And then the implications of government legislation. We saw a couple of years ago when they passed the Affordable Care Act that the government can substantially impact the daily operations of a business. And this affected us all, and the implications of which we still have not seen all of yet. We're still kind of in a process of rolling some of that out, so some of it still remains to be seen. But it's a great example of how government legislation can change the business environment and therefore the HR environment. All right, so all of these things, what do they mean? How do they impact overall business strategy? Strategic HR increases an organization's ability to achieve its vision, mission, and strategic objectives. This is done by developing HR strategies that align with the organization's direction. In order for HR to really have a strong path and know where they're going, they need to know where the organization is going. They have to buy into the vision, and they have to understand the strategic goals so that the HR goals can really support the overall business goals. I love this because it's so true. We don't wake up one morning and decide, oh, I'm going to have a successful business today. Having a successful business takes time, and you have to have a plan and a vision. A vision is a mental image of what the organization wants to become or achieve. One of the illustrations I use in some of my classes is that I make really good cheesecakes. I make award-winning cheesecakes. And if I were to decide to open Christie's Cheesecake Factory, I would need a mental image and a statement of what it was that I wanted to accomplish. Do I want to make more cheesecakes than anyone else on the planet? Do I want to make the best cheesecakes in the world? Do I want to sell to a niche market and only sell to gourmet foodies? Or do I want it on every shelf in every frozen aisle in every grocery store in the country? I need to really articulate what it is that I hope to achieve and put it in writing so that I can share my vision with other people. And a mission kind of flows from that vision. It outlines more specifically how the vision is going to be achieved. If my vision is to sell more cheesecakes than any other cheesecake bakery in the country, then I need to figure out how I'm going to do that. What sales strategies I'm going to use. And I need to say I'm going to achieve being having the highest sales of any cheesecake baker in the country by targeting major grocery store chains. That would be a mission statement. So these two things are absolutely required for any business in order to have strategic planning. Then you have to start looking at drilling down a little further. You have to have a roadmap. Most of us can't drive across the country without getting lost, without some sort of map, a GPS, a map, something to tell us how we get from point A to point B. If I'm sitting in my chair today and I have this dream of being the greatest cheesecake baker in the world and selling more cheesecakes than anyone else, I need to plan how I'm going to get there. I might start by opening a local store. I may sell franchises. I may market my product to existing grocery stores to get my product on their shelves. But I have to have a plan of how I'm going to get to be so well known and so my cheesecakes can be bought by anyone. And so I'm going to have a set of processes that I use. And that's going to be determining what it is that I do that helps me reach my strategy, helps me reach my plan. Do I go purchase a building or rent a building? Do I go buy equipment? Do I lease equipment? I've got to kind of figure out how I'm going to reach all these goals. And then strategy implementation is doing what I plan to do. All of these things are critical to any business. They're also critical to the human resources department. if our strategic, if our vision is to have the most qualified pool of applicants ready to go to work at a moment's notice, we have to have a way to develop that plan, that vision. And so we have to look at recruiting activities. We have to figure out if if we're pulling from a diverse group of people. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. That's just one example. But all of these things have to fit with the strategic plans of the organization as a whole. All right. Every organization, as I said, is guided by strategies, and these strategies take into consideration the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the world around it, both internally and externally. You may have heard of the SWOT analysis. They're very common. We use them all the time in businesses and organizations around the country, even around the world. They look at your own organization and they look at the world outside your organization to see what you can build on and what you need to improve on, where you can expand and where you need to be cautious. And in order to be effective from an HR standpoint, you need to do that for your own HR department as well. You probably have something in writing for your overall organization where they've done a SWOT analysis, and you need to do one for your HR department to see where you're exceeding and where you're falling short of the organizational goals and your goals as a department that will help meet the organizational goals. And we're going to talk about in the next part of this how we meet some of these goals through use of HR competencies, strategic reward systems, training and development, and the application of the EEO law. And that's going to be the end of part 1.